Hello all, I'm Sai and in today's video I'm bringing to you 10 easy to read self-help books for beginners. Many of you guys who watched my videos are looking for books that are specifically for beginners, and in order to just cater to your needs, I'm planning to do some certain beginner specific books across various categories, and of all those the first thing that I wanted to do was self-help books. So here I have 10 different self-help books that you can easily read if you are a beginner. The main criteria that I've chosen for all these books is that the first thing is they must have a very easy to read and understand language. If the language of the book itself is a bit complicated, it will just not motivate you to keep on reading the book. So that is the first criterion that I've considered. And the next one is the length of the book. You don't want to read big huge tomes if you're a beginner. Short quick reads are the best way to start reading if you're a beginner. So I've chosen all these 10 books so that most of them are just around 200 to 250 pages in length. There may be some exceptions like 1 or 2 books which are just over 300 pages, but trust me, they are also very easy to read. So without any further ado, let's get into the books right away. The first book that I'm recommending is something that has to do with a positive attitude, and it is Attitude is Everything by Keller. I read this book nearly 3 years back, and trust me, it was a very eye-opening book for me. It is very simple in its language, but the amount of impact that it will have on you will be very immense. The author just basically talks about the importance of having a positive attitude towards life in order to attain all the goals that you have kept for yourself. It is a very tiny book and has just 125 pages, and it has only 12 chapters. So every chapter inside this book runs for just a maximum of 10 pages. If you are a person who reads at an average speed like me, trust me, you will be able to finish this book within 2 to 3 hours max. And even if you are a slow reader, you can finish this book in a couple of days, as each and every chapter inside this book is very short in its length. You can just keep on reading the chapters without taking multiple breaks, and it is very easy to retain also, especially when it comes to non-fiction books and self-help books in specific. It is necessary to understand and remember the things that you are reading, otherwise there is no point of reading these books. And all the 10 books that I've chosen in this list, especially this one, is very easy to remember and retain so that you can practice it in your daily life. The next one is a book that is based on self-love and self-realization. And trust me, this is one book that I hope I had read at least 2 to 3 years back in my life, especially during the peak of the pandemic, because I was kind of depressed back then and I did not have much hope. And if I had read this book, I think I could have cared for myself a bit more and loved myself a bit more, which I am doing right now. And it is You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. This is easily one of the most positive books that I've read in my life, and it is also super simple to read. Okay, there are so many things that the author talks about here, and this is just a fresh blast of positivity if you ask me. If you are a person who's depressed right now, this is one book you need to read right away, because it will help you understand why you're having that depression and how you can get out of it by your own means without being critical of yourself and just showering yourself with unconditional love. We all have this thought that everything that happens in our life is for some reason. So when bad things happen, we look for some reasons that made that bad thing happen. At the same time, when good things happen also, sometimes we feel like we are not deserving enough of it, and we go in search of reasons to find out why it happened to us. This book just basically talks about accepting yourself for the person that you actually are and developing yourself to be a better person using positive self-talk and self-love most of all. It is a book that also talks heavily about the law of attraction. So if you are a person who is into that like me, I'm sure that this book will be a great thing for you. Despite all those things, if you are a person who's not loving yourself more, you need to read this book because it is very essential in order to become a better version of yourself no matter what. Now the next 3 books in this set are about maintaining a proper balance between your work and life, and at the same time keeping your mind calm and understanding it better without overwhelming yourself because of all the various things that you are doing in life. If you are an adult, I'm sure that you have so many things going on in your life, and you, just like anyone else, is trying to juggle all of them with equal importance without messing anything up. And when you do all these things, it is very easy to get caught up in that whirlpool of emotions and just get stuck there itself. Just in order to understand that properly, there are these 3 books, of which the first one is Life's Amazing Secrets by Gaur Gopal, in which the author basically talks about work-life balance and how you can have a healthy and happy social life by considering our life as a car and the 4 wheels of the car as 4 different parts of our lives, which we have to pay attention to and do certain changes in order to make the car, that is our life, work properly for us in order to get to our destination properly. Again, this is another book which is not at all critical in its tone. It does not say what is wrong about you. It makes you understand what you can do with your life in order to make it better just by yourself without having to look for external sources of motivation or inspiration when you have all of it just within you itself. Again, another book which is very easy in its language, and since it is written by an Indian author, it also taps into our way of life and emotions much more easily compared to all the other books that I'm talking about in this list. So if you are a person who's struggling with work-life balance, you need to read this one. It will definitely be life-changing for you. The next book is basically just a tiny little book about mindfulness, and this is one book which I read last year when I was in my most productive phase, and after reading that book I was able to resonate a lot of things that the author was talking about in there, because I am a person who believes in hustling a lot and working hard in order to get what I want. At the same time, over the years I've also learned that while I'm doing all those things, I should also take some time off and care for myself, because if I'm not good, I'll not be able to do any of the things that I want to do in life. So that book which resonated with me a lot is Be a Triangle by Lilly Singh. The author's first book, How to Be a Boss, is definitely one of my all-time favorite books. I have a summary of that one in English as well as Tamil already out in the channel. I published early this year. I'll try to link it down in the description. You can check that video out if you want to know her first book. But in this one, which is hardly 100 pages long, the author basically talks about mindfulness, because she is one of those people who's an overachiever and she has achieved a lot of things at a very young age. And most of us, what we do is, when we are trying to achieve our goals, we are ready to work hard, we are ready to hustle, we are ready to put all-nighters and work as hard as it is necessary to achieve our goals. While doing all these things, we just forget to live life and just be present at the moment. So in this book, the author talks about the point in which she realized that and made some changes to her lifestyle in order to live a bit more mindful and happy in her life. Since it was a hectic time for me while I read this book, it resonated a lot with me, and I'm sure that if you're a student or a working person, or even if you're a person who's taking care of household things, I'm sure you're working so hard and you have to take some time off in order to be mindful and be present with your body and mind. This book feels more like a conversation with the author rather than just a book. So if you want something fun and light-hearted at the same time which can connect with you and your hard work, you need to read this one. The next two books in this list are books that are going to talk about money or wealth in general. I know that money is not everything in life, but it is necessary to get so many things in our lives, because most of us do not get the privileges that we want and deserve just because we don't have enough wealth or money. And these two books will help you understand what wealth is and how you can change your mindset and attitude towards wealth and money as a whole. At the same time, once you reach that goal that you have set yourself in terms of wealth, how to grow it and also nurture it properly, because if you don't care about it, there is no way it can increase in your life. So the first of these two books is The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. This is one of those books which is super popular and also super worth all the hype that it deserves. So in this book, the author basically talks about how you should have your mindset towards money and what your attitude towards money should be like. Okay, it will make you understand that it doesn't matter what amount of money a person has, it only shows what kind of people they are rather than how much wealthy they are. In order to understand this, I'll put it this way. Okay, this book will make you understand that what people do with their own money is none of your business. At the same time, what you do with your money is none of other people's business, because each and every person's priority differs, and only based on that we are going to spend the money that we have. For example, 100 rupees might be different for you and different for me. For example, I might decide to spend that 100 rupees on a movie ticket, and you might choose to spend that 100 rupees on a nice meal. It doesn't mean that the 100 rupees varies in its value in any way. It just gets used in a different way by different people based upon the priorities and choices that we make. It will help us make peace with the idea of money and wealth as a whole, and be content with what we have, and even reach the level that we want to reach. So this next book talks about what you can do with the wealth that you have and nurture it properly in order to make it manifold and multiply in order to become even wealthier. And it is easily one of the most underhyped and under-recommended books on BookTube or the book community as a whole. The book that I'm talking about is 13 Steps to Bloody Good Wealth by Ashwin Sanghi and Sunil Dalal. I'm very grateful for Indian BookTuber for recommending this book multiple times, because if not for her, I don't think I could have even known about this book and read it at all. And I'd suggest you to read this book as early as you can in life if you're 14 or 15 in age, because this can be super beneficial for you if you read it at a younger age compared to when I read it. I read it when I was 22, and I was feeling very bad that I did not get the opportunity to read this while I was in my high school times, because I could have been able to understand money and finances a bit better and earlier in my life if I had read this then. And this is also one of those books that can be read by any beginner who wants to learn about personal finance, because it talks about each and everything in investment as well as wealth management as a whole as concepts in a very simple and easy way for anyone to understand. I say that this is easy for 14 or 15-year-olds also to read, because all the concepts that we see here are generally seen as adult specific things, since they are things that deal with money, but it is not necessarily like that, because anyone who's a teen can also easily read this and understand and grasp those concepts at a very early age, which will make them a bit more equipped in order to deal with the finances in their lives once they start earning. The author talks about bonds, stocks, mutual funds, and various other jargons that we hear inside the finance industry. So just in order to equip yourselves better and not be fooled by anyone, you need to read this book. The next book is something which you should read and you need to read if you are someone who's working on your communication skills, and it is The Quick and Easy Way to Effective Speaking by Dale Carnegie. Again, I have a video of this book that I've talked about 2 to 3 years back when I read it for the first time, and it is definitely one of those books which had a great effect on me because I started reading this book after I started making YouTube videos, because speaking in front of a crowd and speaking in front of a camera to no one is totally different, and I just have to imagine the number of people who might be watching this after I published a video when there is literally no one else except me who's listening to me talking. So it helped me understand some of the gimmicks that I can use in order to make my speaking skills a bit more fluid. And if you are a person who's struggling to talk in front of a group of people, even though you are a good speaker, this will help you understand why you are facing that fear and that problem, and it will show you the easy and proper steps that you can follow in a very casual way on an everyday basis in order to make it better for you. Again, this is not one book that is critical in its tone at all, okay? It does not show you all the mistakes that you make, it just makes you understand that those mistakes are things that everyone makes and no one bothers about it. Since it is also an old book, the language in this one can be a bit tricky for some people, so you have to read it slowly in order to get the most out of it. I'll try and link the video that I have published about this book down in the description so that you can check it out and get an idea of what the book is about. But this is definitely one book you need to read if you are working on your communication skills. The next one is a book that you need to read if you think that you have attained the amount of success that you want to attain at a particular stage in your life, or even if you have not, because it will help you understand what is stopping you from achieving that goal. And I'm saying all these in advance before talking about the book itself, because the title of this book has a buzzword which is usually used as a negative word in order to express some unpleasant things about a person. And the book that I'm talking about is Ego is the Enemy by Ryan Holiday. This is one book which I felt to be very confronting when I read it for the first time, because there were many instances while reading this book I felt very offended, and through the author's words itself I was able to understand that I am feeling offended because it is not me who is getting offended or hurt by the words of the author, it is just my ego. And if I had not continued reading the book and finished reading it, I would have given in to my ego and lost the excellent experience of reading this book. And many of us do lose some opportunities and great things in our lives just because of our ego, because we don't understand it properly. It's not like some people have ego and some people don't. Each and every one of us, whether we accept it or not, do have some ego, and this book will help us identify how our ego works and how we can make it work for us in the proper way in order to get what we want in life. But it also has a great positive effect that it will help you keep your dignity and self-respect in check always, because you not get down from your level of respect and dignity when your ego is standing there along with you to protect the respect that you have for yourself. In order to understand all these things and in order to guard yourself properly and protect the place that you are in once you attain the success that you want to achieve, you have to read this book, because it will challenge the ego that you have and it will also help you tame that properly to get what you want. The next book is one for all the nervous and anxious people out there just like me. I'm a person who gets very anxious and nervous because I'm an introvert by nature. At the same time, I'm also a bit too punctual, and if anything goes just like a minute or so behind my schedule, I get nervous and anxious a lot. And this book resonated with me because it showed me that I'm not the only person who's going through all these emotions which are very difficult to deal with. There are a ton of people across the world just like the author who has written this book, and it is not as bad as we think it to be always, even though it might feel so. And the book that I'm talking about is Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. I know that Matt Haig's book, The Midnight Library, is one of the most popular books out there in BookTube, as well as the book community as a whole, even between non-readers. But this book is something which connected with me so much because the author talks about his own experiences with anxiety, panic attacks, and general nervousness as a whole, and showing how it is not possible for us to be not anxious and not nervous in the world that we are living right now, because it is not like the olden days in which people cannot communicate that easily with others. Even though it has made a lot of things easier nowadays, it has also made it much more easy for us to look at the success of other people, and instead of getting inspired from it, we start beating ourselves up despite the amount of hard work that we put into our lives. This is also another book which will make you understand the work that you are doing and show that it is not at all necessary in order to compare your life or yourself with anyone else's. If you are anxious or nervous, try and read this book. It will definitely show you that you are not the only person dealing with it, and it will also make you understand how strong you are because you are being anxious and nervous, and at the same time you are handling it well and doing all the work that you are doing currently in your life. The last book in this list is actually my most favorite of all the 10 books that I've chosen for this video, and I can also very easily say that this is the one book in this list which has easily changed my life, and it is The 5 AM Club by Robin Sharma, and it is also quite bigger compared to all the other books that I've talked about in this list. It is around 350 pages long, and it will take some time for you to read this book, but trust me, each and every minute and second that you spend reading this book is completely worth it, because it will just give you benefits manifold compared to the time that you invest in reading it. In this book, the author basically talks about the benefits of waking up at 5 AM in the morning and doing certain things within the first hour of the day. He talks about the 20-20-20 rule, which shows you how you can use the 60 minutes that you have between 5 AM and 6 AM as 3 compartments of 20 minutes each. It is definitely a life-changing book for me, and I have changed my life drastically after reading this book and inculcating some habits from it in my daily life. Having said all those things, I'm not going to lie to you telling that this is one book that you can follow easily in your life, because if you're not a morning person, this book will be very difficult for you to even start practicing. I'm a morning person by nature, so it was a bit easier for me. Even with that, I faced a lot of challenges after inculcating all the things that the author is giving us away for free through his words in this book, because they might seem like they don't work in the first 2 to 3 weeks that you start practicing the things that the author says, but as you keep doing them, in like 1 or 2 months, you'll be able to see drastic changes in your life. I was able to see drastic changes in myself and my life professionally as well as personally to such a great extent after reading this book. My mindset got a lot more positive. I was attracting a lot more opportunities, and the quality of the work that I was putting out was a bit astonishing for myself to see. It might sound like I am overhyping this book, but trust me, this is one of the most positive books that I've read in my entire life, and that's the special thing about Robin Sharma's books. They are actually written in a fictional style, like he's going to give you self-help tips and personal development tips through a story that he's writing, and this book is also written in the same format. I'm also planning to reread this book this year. Let's just wait and see if it is going to happen or not. But if you have not read the 5 AM Club, it is one book that you need to read. So yes guys, those are all the 10 easy to read self-help books that I want to recommend for beginners. I have read all these 10 books, and most of them have helped me immensely in my life, as I talked about each of them specifically inside the video. And if you have some extra recommendations for myself as well as the other people who are looking for beginner friendly books, please do let them in the comments, because it will be helpful for multiple people. And if you did find this video useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and also share it to your friends. And if you want to get more content from me, do subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day.